My mother told me my 6-year-old was too embarrassing to bring to Thanksgiving, and she said it while my daughter was sitting right behind me, buckled into a booster seat, hearing every word. It was the afternoon before the holiday, the kind of cold that makes you want comfort food and a warm house you can trust. I was driving us to the airport, trying to convince myself that this year might be different. Haley kicked her feet in the back, hugging her floppy-eared stuffed rabbit. She'd been counting down for weeks. "Mom, do you think Grandma Linda will let me sit by her?" she asked. "She promised me marshmallows." "I'm sure," I said, using that gentle mom voice that's basically lying for peace. Traffic crawled under a gray sky. The airport signs ahead looked like a promise. Then my phone buzzed. Mom, Linda. I answered and put it on speaker. "Hey, Mom, we're on the way." "I think we'll make it. Claire," she cut in. Her tone was too careful, like someone trying to move a vase without making noise. "Yeah?" I said, already bracing. "Don't come," she said. "Not this year." My brain blinked. "What?" "We've talked," she continued, as if reading from a script. "Haley is loud. She makes people uncomfortable. Aaron needs a peaceful day. No drama." My hands tightened on the wheel. In the rearview mirror, Haley's feet stopped kicking. The rabbit was squeezed tight against her chest. She heard it. I yanked the call off speaker so fast it was pure reflex. "Mom," I hissed, low. "I'm driving. Haley is in the car. We're on the way to the airport. She'll forget," my mother sighed. "She's a child." "You just called my child embarrassing." "She's too much, Claire," she snapped. "Aaron has guests. We need everything presentable." Presentable, like my kid was a stain. I flipped on my hazards and pulled onto the shoulder, heart hammering. Cars blasted past, wind rocking the car. I stared ahead, trying to force my voice into something steady. "We already bought flights," I said. "We're literally—" "And now you're not," she cut in. "It's better this way. We'll see you another time." I waited for an apology that never arrived. Then she hung up. For a second, I stared at the dark screen, like it might light back up and undo what just happened. It didn't. From the back seat, Haley's voice came small. "Mom?" I glanced in the mirror. She wasn't crying. That scared me more. She looked straight ahead like she was trying to disappear. "They don't want me," she whispered. My throat tightened so hard it hurt. I wanted to scream, but she was watching me like I was the only safe thing left. "No!" I started automatically. Haley's eyes filled anyway. "Don't lie. I heard Grandma. She said I'm embarrassing." In that moment, I realized what was really on the line. Not Thanksgiving, not plane tickets. A 6-year-old was learning what love feels like. I swallowed, chose my words like they were fragile. "I'm so sorry," I said. "Grandma said something cruel. And she was wrong. You are not the problem. Not ever." Haley hugged her rabbit tighter. "But I wanted to go." "I know," I said. "And you deserved to." I stared at the airport signs in the distance and felt something click into place, quiet, firm, final. I could still make today about us. I turned the car around. I did call Aaron, because part of me still wanted to believe this was a misunderstanding. She answered like I'd interrupted her breathing. "What?" she said. "Did you tell Mom not to let us come?" I asked. "Because of Haley?" A pause. Then the sigh, long, practiced, designed to make me feel embarrassed for speaking. "I have people coming," Aaron said. "Justin has clients. I don't want questions. I don't want a scene." "My child existing isn't a scene," I said. "This is why you're exhausting," she snapped. "You make everything dramatic." I didn't argue. I just said, "Got it," and hung up before my voice could break. Then I sat there, shaking, and chose us. Haley went silent, the heavy kind. So I did the only thing I could think of to put warmth back into the world. I drove us to a tiny donut shop near home, the kind with a bell over the door and powdered sugar on everything. At the counter, I told her, "Pick any two, and yes, you can get sprinkles." Haley blinked like she didn't trust kindness anymore. "Really?" "Really," I said. "2 donuts, extra sprinkles if you want." She chose chocolate glazed and pink frosting. But when we sat by the window, she didn't eat. She just held the donut like it might vanish. I was trying to figure out how to stitch her back together when a gentle voice came from the next table. "Hey," a woman said softly. "Is she okay?" I looked up. An older couple sat with a woman in her 30s. Their faces were calm, in a way my nervous system didn't recognize. "I'm Patricia," the older woman said. "This is my husband, Henry, and our daughter, Megan." Megan gave me a small smile. "Holidays can be rough," she said, like she meant it. I tried to say we were fine. My mouth refused. Patricia's eyes flicked to Haley and back to me. No pity, no nosiness, just care. "We're having Thanksgiving tomorrow," Patricia said. "Nothing fancy. If you two don't have somewhere to go, come. No explanations required." I froze. Before I could answer, a little girl with curly hair slid off her chair and marched over to Haley like a tiny commander. "Hi, I'm Chloe," she announced. "Do you like coloring?" Haley stared, unsure. Then she nodded small, cautious. Chloe grinned. "Come on, I'll show you the crayons." And Haley stood up and followed her to the play corner. I watched my daughter move instead of shrink, and my chest ached with relief and grief at the same time. Patricia waited a beat, then said quietly, "Sometimes the best family is the one that makes room for you." Outside, the cold pressed against the glass. Inside, my child was laughing softly over crayons with a girl who didn't know she'd just been called too much. I stared at the open door Patricia had offered one simple invitation and realized I had a choice. Tomorrow was Thanksgiving, and for the first time in my life, I considered walking into a house that wasn't mine and calling it safety. Thanksgiving morning, I expected to wake up to regret. Instead, I woke up to Haley staring at the ceiling, quiet, like her heart was holding its breath. "Do we have to go anywhere?" she asked. "No," I said. "We get to choose." Her eyes flicked to me, searching for the trap. Then she hugged her rabbit and whispered, "Okay." Patricia's address was only 20 minutes away, but the drive felt like crossing a border. The closer we got, the more my body prepared for criticism, for sighs, for the unspoken message that we should be grateful for scraps. Henry opened the door before I knocked, grinning like we were expected, not accommodated. "Claire, you made it! Come in before you freeze." Warm air wrapped around us. The house smelled like butter, cinnamon, and roasting turkey, real food, real care, not performance. Patricia appeared in an apron and immediately treated me like I belonged. "Kitchen's that way," she said, pointing. "Shoes wherever. If you want to help, help. If you want to sit, sit." Haley hovered behind my leg. Then Chloe barreled into the entryway like a spark. "Haley," she yelled. "I saved the big puzzle for you." Haley hesitated. Chloe didn't notice the hesitation. She just grabbed Haley's hand like it was normal. Something in my daughter's shoulders dropped 1 inch, then another. She followed. Megan passed me a mug of something warm. "You don't have to earn your seat here," she said quietly, like she could see the way my hands shook. I nodded and pretended I wasn't close to tears. The day moved in gentle pieces. Henry fussed over the turkey like it had personally challenged him. Patricia made space at the counter and asked me to chop vegetables, not because she needed the help, but because she knew I needed a job to do with my hands. At one point, I checked my phone out of habit. There it was, my mother's social media post. A perfectly framed photo of her table with Aaron, her husband, their kids smiling, posed, blessed. The caption was something about nothing like family, and so grateful for my grandbabies. No mention of Haley, no mention of me, not even a polite lie like missing someone. Just a clean erasure. Something in me went very still. I slipped the phone into my pocket and went back to Patricia's kitchen, where nobody needed angles to prove they were good people. At dinner, Haley sat between Chloe and Megan like she'd been there before. She ate rolls and turkey and asked Henry a million questions about the meat thermometer. Henry answered each one like her curiosity mattered. Then Haley knocked her cup of apple juice onto the table. My body reacted before my brain did. I froze. waiting for the sharp inhale, the eye roll, the lecture about being careful. Patricia didn't even flinch. She grabbed a towel and said calmly, "Tables are for spills. It's fine." Henry nodded solemnly. In 2003, I dropped an entire gravy boat on the carpet. The carpet survived. The family survived. I survived. Haley giggled an actual giggle, and the sound hit me like sunlight. After dessert, while the kids played, Haley climbed into my lap and whispered, "Mom, will Grandma Linda ever want me?" My fork paused halfway to my mouth. Across the table, Patricia didn't stare. She didn't swoop in with pity. She just listened, steady. I kept my voice soft. "You are not the problem," I told Haley. "Not ever. Adults make choices. Some choices are wrong." Haley nodded like she wanted to believe me, then pressed her face into my shoulder. That night, back home, I expected a text from my mother. Something angry, something controlling, something that would pull me back into orbit. Nothing came. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months. I didn't call. They didn't call. It wasn't a dramatic cutoff. It was silence that proved how conditional my place had always been. If I wasn't showing up to be managed, nobody came looking. Meanwhile, Patricia and Henry kept showing up. Sunday dinner, 5 o'clock, Henry texted the first week after Thanksgiving, like it was a normal thing to invite near strangers into your home. We went. Then we went again. Then it became routine, an appointment with safety. A few weeks after that, Megan and I sat on Patricia's porch while the girls built a crooked snowman in the yard. Megan handed me a blanket without comment and said, "You know you don't owe them access to Haley, right?" I stared at the snow clinging to Chloe's curls. "They're her grandparents." "Biology isn't a hall pass," Megan said. "Love is behavior." The sentence landed in my chest like a bell. I'd spent my whole life treating my mother's approval like oxygen. Hearing someone say I could choose a different air felt almost illegal. Inside, Henry started playing old music while Patricia hummed along, and Haley danced with her rabbit in her hands, awkward, joyful, unafraid of taking up space. I watched her and thought, I'm done teaching her to shrink. Haley's drawings started appearing on their fridge. A kid cup stayed in their cabinet like it lived there. Chloe saved Haley a seat without being asked. Megan offered to watch Haley when my work ran late. No guilt, no scoreboard. One Sunday, Haley ran into the kitchen, arms open, and yelled, "Grandma Patty!" My lungs seized. I waited for correction, for discomfort, for the, "Oh, honey, I'm not really." Patricia turned, opened her arms, and smiled like the simplest truth in the world. "There's my girl," she said. Haley melted into her like she'd been searching for that shape of love her whole life. I made it to the bathroom before the tears came. I stared at myself in the mirror, furious at how easy love could be if people just chose it. When Haley fell asleep that night, I sat at my kitchen table with a pen, a stack of forms, and a decision I'd been avoiding for years. I updated the school pickup list. I changed emergency contacts. I removed names that had never protected my child. Then I opened the paperwork that mattered most: guardianship. If anything happened to me, Haley would not be sent back to audition for love. She would go to Patricia and Henry. My hand didn't shake once. And when I finished signing, I realized something that made my stomach flip. The next time my family called, it wouldn't be to apologize. It would be because they wanted something. Chosen family didn't arrive with fireworks. It arrived with routines. Sunday dinners stayed steady. Patricia would text a grocery question like I'd been in the family group chat forever. Henry would save Haley the end slice of bread because it has personality. Chloe would call our apartment Haley's other house without anyone correcting her. I kept waiting for the catch, for the moment they got tired of us, for the sigh that said, "We did our good deed, now go away." It never came. Instead, Megan invited me to a weekly single-parent play meetup she helped run at the community center. Low stakes, she promised. Kids play. Adults pretend they remember how to talk. That sounded like my specific nightmare, so of course I went. The room was loud in a normal way. Toddlers squealing, plastic toys clacking, parents clinging to coffee like flotation devices. Haley ran straight to the craft table. I hovered near the wall, pretending I wasn't scanning every face for judgment. That's when I noticed him. A man walked in holding the door for a mom with a stroller. He had a tired smile and the calm posture of someone who didn't need to prove he belonged. Beside him was a little girl with a serious expression and a ponytail that kept slipping. "Snack?" the girl demanded immediately. "After we say hi," the man said, then looked up and caught my eye like he was checking the room for safety too. He nodded, small and polite. Hey, I answered. His daughter marched over to the snack table with the focus of a tiny attorney. Haley glanced up from her markers and smiled. The girl paused, then returned the smile like it cost her something. Over the next weeks, the man became a familiar shape in the room. He didn't perform good dad for applause. He just noticed things. A dropped sippy cup, a kid about to cry, a parent who needed an extra chair. He'd pick up the mess without making anyone feel indebted. One day, Haley and his daughter ended up building a tower together, arguing over blocks like they'd known each other forever. "She doesn't usually share," the man admitted, watching his daughter with something like wonder. Haley beamed. "I'm really good at negotiating," she said, and I almost laughed because she sounded like Henry. The man offered his hand. "I'm Ethan. My daughter is Sophie." "Claire," I said, shaking his hand. "Haley." Sophie looked at Haley's stuffed rabbit and said, very serious, "That rabbit is brave." Haley hugged it tighter. "He is," she agreed. Something in my chest loosened. Ethan and I didn't become a love story overnight. We became a habit first. We talked while the kids played. We walked to our cars together. We exchanged numbers for playdates, then started texting about everything else. Homework, dinner ideas, the weird grief that comes with co-parenting when your co is mostly absence. Ethan never asked me to explain my family drama. He didn't flinch when I mentioned boundaries. He just said, "That makes sense," and moved on like my life didn't need to be debated. The kids made it easy. Sophie and Haley clicked the way kids do when they recognize each other's soft spots. Sophie was cautious, thoughtful, and secretly hilarious. Haley was chatty, stubborn, and determined to make Sophie laugh. The first time Ethan came to Sunday dinner at Patricia and Henry's, he fit in without trying. Patricia pulled me aside and whispered, "He's kind." A year passed. Quiet, solid, safe. Then one evening, Ethan stood in my living room while Haley and Sophie built a blanket fort. And he said, "I don't want to be a guest in your life forever." He didn't make a speech. He didn't sell me a dream. He just offered a ring like a promise you could actually live inside. I said yes. Haley squealed. Sophie rolled her eyes, but her mouth curved like she was relieved. Patricia cried. Henry pretended he didn't, but he disappeared into the garage for a suspiciously long time. For a while, it felt like we were building something so steady, nothing could shake it. Then my phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in months. Mom Linda. I stared at it like it might bite. Ethan looked up from the couch. "You okay?" "Define okay," I said, and answered anyway. "Sarah," my mother began automatically, then corrected herself like my identity was a detail. "Claire, I heard you're getting married." "Yeah," I said. A beat. Then the real question, where is our invitation? The audacity was almost impressive. "You're not invited," I said calmly. Silence. Then outrage, sharp and righteous. "What do you mean, we're not invited? We're your parents." I kept my voice even. "You told me not to come to Thanksgiving because my child was embarrassing." "She heard you." "Don't start," she warned, like she still believed she could steer the conversation by shaming me. I let out a breath that was almost a laugh. "I'm not starting," I said. "I'm finishing." She hung up. The backlash came in waves. Messages from relatives I hadn't heard from in years. Calls that began with, "I don't know what happened," but and ended with, "Be the bigger person." As if protecting a child was a petty grudge. Then the voicemail arrived. My mother's voice, tight and satisfied. "We're coming anyway," Aaron texted. "You're being dramatic. This is why nobody can deal with you." Ethan listened, jaw clenched. "You're not crazy," he said softly. "Thank you," I told him. "I'd like that embroidered on a pillow." We hired security for the wedding. One rule: no one approaches Haley. No exceptions. On the morning of the wedding, Patricia fastened Haley's dress like she'd done it 100 times. Henry hovered nearby, pretending he wasn't emotional. Megan pinned my veil. Sophie adjusted her own bow with the seriousness of a CEO. For a moment, I forgot fear. Then the wedding coordinator stepped into the room, careful. "Claire," she said quietly, "your parents are here, and your sister's family." My pulse spiked. I tasted metal. Ethan appeared beside me instantly. "Want them removed?" I looked at Haley, bright dress, brave rabbit, a 6-year-old heart still healing, and I knew I wasn't risking chaos within her hearing range. "No," I said. "Back row, far away. If they move toward her, stop them." The coordinator nodded and left. Henry offered me his arm. His hand was steady, and that was the whole point. They sat in the back row like people who'd shown up to a movie halfway through and still expected the ending to be about them. My mother's spine was stiff, her mouth pinned into a polite line. My father looked smaller than I remembered, as if shrinking could save him from responsibility. Erin scanned the room like she was judging a presentation. Her husband sat back like he belonged. Their kids fidgeted, bored already. None of them looked at Haley. Good, I thought. Keep it that way. Henry walked me to the aisle entrance and squeezed my hand once. No speech, no pressure, just steady. "Ready, kiddo?" he whispered, borrowing his usual joke for Haley and giving it to me. I nodded, because if I tried to speak, I might shake apart. Then the music started, and I stepped forward with Henry at my side. Ethan waited at the front, eyes locked on me with the kind of gaze that says, "I choose you, and I choose your child." Haley sat near Patricia and Megan, between Chloe and Sophie, looking like a tiny queen in her dress. The stuffed rabbit peeked out of her lap like a bodyguard. My biological father didn't stand. Henry did. That single motion was a whole childhood rewritten in 1 second. The ceremony was simple and warm. We promised what mattered: safety, honesty, home. When Ethan kissed me, the room cheered, and Haley clapped so hard her bracelets clicked. At the reception, the kids' table was loud and happy, exactly the kind of too much Haley was blamed for. Chloe taught Sophie a silly hand game. Haley fed her rabbit a crumb of cake like it was a guest of honor. I should have been focused only on joy, but my nerves kept checking the corners. Then the DJ tapped the microphone. If I can have everyone's attention. My stomach flipped anticipation, not fear because I'd planned this part. I took the mic. The room quieted. "Thank you for being here," I began. My voice sounded steady, even to me. A year ago, I was told not to come to Thanksgiving because my child was embarrassing. A hush moved through the room like a wave. "That call didn't take anything from us," I continued. "It showed me where we actually belonged." I turned toward Patricia and Henry. "You opened your door when you didn't have to. You loved Haley like she wasn't a burden, like she was exactly what she is, an incredible kid." Applause exploded. People stood. Patricia pressed a hand to her mouth, overwhelmed. Henry's face turned red the way it does when proud men are trying not to cry. I looked at Megan. "And Megan, you became the sister I always needed." More applause. Then I let my gaze drift to the back row. My mother's face had gone pale. Erin looked stunned, like she couldn't understand why the room wasn't rallying around her. My father stared at his hands. Their faces said it all. The story wasn't theirs to manage anymore. I handed the mic back and stepped into Ethan's arms. For 1 perfect second, it was just us. Then my mother pushed through the crowd. "What did you just say?" she hissed, voice sharp enough to cut glass. "The truth," I said. "You humiliated us," she snapped. "You humiliated a child." I didn't raise my voice. "You humiliated a child," I corrected. I'm just refusing to hide it. Her eyes flashed. That's my granddaughter. I kept my tone low. You rejected her. We did not. Stop, I said, and the word landed like a door shutting. My mother's lips trembled with rage. Then she reached for the last weapon she had. You can't keep her from us. We have rights. And that's when I dropped the sentence I'd been holding for months. If anything happens to me, I said evenly, Haley goes to Patricia and Henry. Not you, not Aaron, not anyone you can bully into silence. My mother actually staggered like the floor tilted. What? You're not listed anywhere that matters, I said. Not on school forms, not in medical permissions, not in guardianship. My father's eyes filled, and for a second I almost felt sorry for him until I remembered all the years he stayed quiet because it was easier. Erin's face hardened. You're insane, she spit. No, I said. I'm done. My mother's expression snapped into a sugary smile the way it always did when other people were watching. She turned her head toward the kids' table and called, bright and fake, Haley, come here, sweetheart. Security moved instantly, stepping between her and the children. Patricia stood too calm, practiced, immovable. Henry appeared beside her like a wall. Megan was already guiding Haley away, one gentle hand on her shoulder. Chloe and Sophie followed like loyal guards. My mother's voice rose. This is my family. Henry's voice stayed low. Not today. I looked at my mother and felt something settle into place, quiet, final. I don't hate you, I said. I've just stopped waiting for you to be different. Then I nodded to security. Please escort them out. My mother kept looking back as they were led away, like she expected me to chase her. I didn't. I crouched in front of Haley near the hallway where Megan had brought her. Haley's brow furrowed. Was that Grandma Linda? That was someone who doesn't get to hurt you anymore, I said. Haley blinked, considered, then tugged my sleeve. Can I have cake now? A laugh burst out of me, shaky, real. Yes, I said. You can have cake. 2 pieces. We went back to the dance floor. Haley spun with Chloe. Sophie laughed for real. Ethan held my hand like he was anchoring me to the present. The next morning, my phone was full of messages from people who cared more about tradition than a child's feelings. I deleted them without reading twice. Then one message came through from my Aunt Denise. I heard what happened. I'm proud of you. Protect Haley. You're doing the right thing. I stared at it for a long time. Then I texted back, thank you. And for the first time in my life, the thought felt true. I'm free. That afternoon, Haley asked if we could visit Patricia and Henry, just to tell them thanks again. We went. Henry made hot chocolate. Patricia tucked a blanket around Haley without asking permission. Watching it, I realized freedom isn't loud. It's a calm house, a safe child, and a boundary that holds. People love a dramatic breakup, a screaming match, a slammed door, a villain monologue. What they don't talk about is the kind of ending that happens in silence. The moment you stop returning calls, stop explaining yourself, stop handing your child over to people who confuse cruelty with family values. After the wedding, my mother tried every doorway she could find. She emailed me a long message about forgiveness that never once included the words, I'm sorry. Aaron sent a text that said, You embarrassed Mom, as if my job was to protect my mother from consequences. A cousin called to remind me that grandparents are important. Like importance is automatic and not earned. I responded exactly once. I wrote, Haley will not be around people who call her shameful. This is not a debate. Then I stopped. The silence that followed wasn't lonely the way I used to fear. It was peaceful. It was the sound of my nervous system unclenching. Sunday dinners kept happening, 5 o'clock, like clockwork. Patricia taught Sophie how to make pie crust, hands patient, voice gentle. Henry let Haley help him fix a squeaky cabinet hinge, which mostly meant she held a flashlight and narrated the process like a sports announcer. Megan and I traded childcare the way normal families do, casual, practical, no guilt attached. Chloe still saved Haley a seat, even when the living room floor was already covered in toys. One Sunday, Haley spilled juice again. This time I didn't flinch. Patricia dabbed the table and winked at me. See? The table survived twice. Henry saluted with his napkin. The family remained strong. Haley laughed, loud and unafraid, and I felt something shift, not because the past vanished, but because it stopped controlling the present. Ethan noticed too. One night after we tucked the girls in, he sat beside me on the couch and said, "You know what I love most?" "What?" I asked, bracing for something romantic. He smiled. "No one in this house has to audition." My throat tightened, because he had named the thing I'd spent my whole life doing, auditioning for love, for approval, for a place at a table that always felt temporary. I thought about that afternoon on the freeway, the gray sky, the steering wheel under my hands, Haley's rabbit crushed against her chest, my mother's voice saying, "She'll forget, like a child's heart is a whiteboard you can erase." Haley didn't forget, but she healed. Not because I found the perfect words, but because I found the right environment. Because I stopped offering my daughter to people who treated her existence like drama. A few months later, Haley came home from school with a form titled Family Tree Project. She stared at it, chewing her pencil. "Mom," she said, "do I have to put Grandma Linda?" The question hit me in a soft place. I sat beside her and said, "You can put the people who feel like family." Haley nodded, relieved, and started drawing. She drew me. Ethan, Sophie, Patricia, Henry, Megan, Chloe. Then, after a pause, she drew her stuffed rabbit with a tiny turkey hat and wrote, "Brave." When she finished, she looked up. "Is that okay?" "It's more than okay," I said. "It's true." That night, after she fell asleep, I opened my phone and scrolled past old photos of my mother's perfect holidays, the staged smiles, the captions about gratitude, the comments praising her as a wonderful grandma. I used to feel sick looking at them. Now I just felt clear. You can't fix people who benefit from not changing. You can only choose what your child grows up thinking love looks like. And for anyone wondering, yes, my mother tried one more time. She showed up at Haley's school for a surprise visit during a spring event, all sweetness and perfume, like she could skip the work and collect the title. She didn't get past the front desk. The office staff called me because my name was on every list that mattered, and Patricia's was right below it. I arrived with Ethan, calm, and told the principal, "She does not have permission." My mother cried in the parking lot. Aaron sent 3 angry messages. Relatives sighed about family drama. Haley ate her cupcake at the event and didn't even notice the storm outside. That's the part people don't understand. Boundaries aren't punishments. They're protection. They're fences around childhood. On the drive home, Haley hummed to herself and asked, "Can we go to Grandma Patty's on Sunday?" "Of course," I said. She smiled, then added, "I like it there because nobody says I'm too loud." I gripped the steering wheel and let the feeling rise. Anger, grief, relief, all of it. But this time I had somewhere to put it. Into the decision I kept making, over and over. Protect the child. Choose the safe house. Build the family that builds you. Sometimes people ask why I didn't just talk it out. I did talk. For years. I explained calmly. I explained tearfully. I explained in therapy language and in plain language. My mother heard me the way a wall hears rain. It registers the sound, but nothing changes. That's what the donut shop taught me, weirdly. I watched Haley hold a pink frosted donut and refuse to bite because she was afraid joy would be taken away again. A 6-year-old shouldn't have to learn that kind of caution. Patricia and Henry didn't fix my family. They didn't need to. They simply showed Haley a different model. Adults who apologize, adults who laugh when juice spills, adults who don't punish kids for being noticeable. And the guardianship papers weren't revenge either. They were a seatbelt, a plan that says, if life gets rough, the child goes where love is proven, not promised. I signed because hope is not a safety strategy. If you're in a similar spot, please hear this. You don't need permission to protect your kid. You don't need a dramatic moment to justify a boundary. You just need one clear decision and the courage to keep choosing it. Even if people call you cold, bitter, ungrateful, those are just words. Your child's nervous system is the real evidence that you're doing right. So tell me what you think. Did I go too far by exposing them at my wedding and cutting them off? Or was it the only way to protect Haley? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you want more stories like this, hit subscribe so you don't miss the next one.